I received an email this morning from an atheist who was thoughtful but unhappy with me because he'd seen a tape where I said the atheism was a religion and that I was basing that on the answers they give to the basic questions of religion, which is the cause, the nature, and the purpose of the universe. Now, that isn't my definition. It's just kind of a standard definition. I think this one actually came from the BBC. But you'll find very similar things if you look. And of course, atheism attempts to answer all those questions, although they do it fairly poorly. So they try to say you shouldn't even ask us these questions. So after the guy went to the trouble to tell me that I should just leave atheism alone, it just means no God. And I tried to answer him back politely and say, well, let's talk about a couple of other things then. And I explained to him Sam Harris's quotes, and he agreed that he thought Sam ought to be quiet. And then I asked him about meaning of life in his own life. And he said, well, I don't think there is any meaning, but I attempt to live with that. And I answered back and said, then would you agree with me if I say that atheism is a doctrine or a dogma of despair? And he said, well, no. So I said to him, there was an old poet, E.A. Robinson, who, if you know me at all, you'll know I admire E.A. Robinson. But he had a character, Matthias at the Door, book-length poem, where Matthias he described as a man who was like a child had opened up a nut and found it empty. That's how Matthias's life was. So I said to this fellow, what do you think of that? Would that describe the way you view life? And he said, well, I don't know, maybe. And I said, well, what about throws a life, you're going to live a life of quiet desperation, knowing that it's meaningless if you're an atheist? And he said, well, basically, I was going to say it can still be meaningful, but I heard a quote where you gave Sam Harris heck over saying that. And I said, yeah. So we had a nice discussion. And I say that because I don't normally get these nice emails. I get a lot of that. Oh, Mr. Moore, you're such a stooge, all that kind of stuff. Look, I've got family who'll tell me how stupid I am. I don't need strangers. I'm not much affected by all that. So if you're attempted to hurt my feelings with that, I wouldn't bother. I'm kind of impervious to all those insults. But if you actually want to talk about it, then just email me like this man did, and I'm happy to discuss it. And I'm not trying to win. I'm trying to discuss things. I don't set out to win in this thing. I try to persuade you that maybe your position's irrational. That's all. So if you want to email me, I appreciate it. But also, this is probably the only video I'll be able to make with holding it in my hand, because once my wife sees it, I'm probably going to be denied this privilege again. Thanks.